All right, so let's finish talking about types of right triangle trig with an application. And so one thing we need to talk about is the angle of elevation or angle of depression. And all that's pretty much saying is that if you're given a starting point, whether it's the ground or your eye level, so here's our eyes. Smiley person. And an angle of elevation is going to be from the ground level or wherever you're starting up. So this would be our angle of elevation. Or if we're going and looking down or traveling down, this would be our angle of depression. Right, so it's always from some sort of ground or eye level, some level ground, and then we're either going up or down. So if we look at this next page, an airplane takes off with an elevation of 12 degrees. So I'm assuming that the airplane takes off from the ground, and it takes off with an elevation of 12 degrees. So here's our ground, and it's going an angle of elevation of 12 degrees. And it raises to an altitude of 1500. So an altitude is a height, and we're going to say that this is up here at 1500 feet. So I want to know how far is the plane from the airport via the ground distance, and this would be our ground distance here. And maybe we can call that G. So let's calculate that. So we're going to have to figure out what trig function to use. And it looks like I don't have a hypotenuse. So if I don't have a hypotenuse, I'm not going to use sine or cosine. I'm going to use tangent. So let's set that up. So the tangent of 12 degrees, tangent is opposite. So 1500 over the adjacent. And if we go ahead and solve that, we can just, like I said, switch those. So G is equal to 1500 over the tangent of 12 degrees. So let's put that in the calculator. So 1500 divided by, here's our trig functions, the tangent of 12 degrees. And it's about approximately 7,000, it's very tiny, 57 feet away from its original starting point. This next problem is angle of depression, and it says that Mr. Bruce looks out of his window with an angle of depression of 32 degrees and see two kids fighting. So I know that someone's looking out of a window. So here's our eyesight here, and an angle of depression of 32 degrees. So that's coming from his eyesight looking down. He's looking down 32 degrees and see two kids fighting. He decides to break up the fight if it's less than 50 meters away. If his window is 28 meters from the ground, well, here's his window, 28 meters from the ground. I'm wondering if, like, how far this distance is here. I'm hoping that it'll be less than 50 so we can help break up the fight. So if we do a little manipulating with our triangle here, kind of make a box and translate this 28 over here so I can work in this triangle. And this is actually D itself, so I don't need to do any sort of math to get that angle. I can just kind of project it over here. So if I look and see what I have, looks like I don't have a hypotenuse again, so I'll use tangent. So we have the tangent of 32 degrees. Well, the tangent is opposite, 28, over the adjacent, D. So our distance is 28, and I think we're in meters, over the tangent of 32 degrees. So let's see what happens when we calculate that. So 28 divided by, go over to tangent, 32, and that's 44.8 meters. So it's less than 50. So it looks like he's going to go break up the fight, which is good.